Netflix has been in the news, and it's part of this consequences of the disruption that COVID has created for many businesses. Some obviously were hurt. Others were benefited from COVID, Netflix being one of them. But now, as the implications of COVID begin to disseminate or diminish, these companies are seeing big consequences. So this past week, Netflix announced their first quarter earnings and announced that they had lost 200,000 subscribers. It was the first time that they had a net loss in over a decade, and this caused the stock to fall and the company to lose $50 billion in market capitalization. So the consequences are quite significant. Now, what's interesting is there's been a lot of talk about ads as the solution, but another possibility is to turn to becoming more of a community-driven business. And there are some initiatives underway at Netflix to actually drive communities around particular shows. And so this leads to a broader question about how can community-driven businesses help with retention and creating that stickiness to your business that so many businesses need, and to stop this volatility that can happen as external events impact the business. What's interesting is Disney has a fan club called D23. The 23 refers to the year in which Disney was created in 1923. This fan club was created in 2009. So it's pretty interesting that Disney did not have an official fan club or community for most of its existence, but it recognized now that it can benefit from cultivating one. And they have a big event every year and do lots of things to basically reward and engage their superfans. Peloton is another company that has a very large internal team that focuses on their community development and outreach. And there's lots of different activities that they sponsor and encourage. Then when we turn to these newer what they call Web3 companies, we see many of them turning to this new platform called Discord, in which is basically an architecture to allow for community engagement. And just the numbers are phenomenal. Discord added 255 million registered users between May 2017 and June 2020. Huge growth. A lot of that in the gaming community, but it's now spilling over into other communities. They now have 150 million monthly active users and 19 million active weekly users. And so if you look at some of the communities that are built around Discord, you have a platform called Axie Infinity, which is a game using NFTs. They have 750,000 members. Another one called VFriends has 300,000. And then you have a metaverse platform now, which has 270,000. And so these communities now are ways of engaging. It's this question of, is it a customer or a community? And communities are interesting in the sense that they actually give back and contribute back to the company. So it's not this one-way street any longer. But that creates challenges. How do you ensure that that community is positive and reflecting the growth and expansion of the brand? And so I think there's two elements to consider. One is the degree of engagement. That is the emotional interaction, the appeal, the enthusiasm that particular participants have. And the other axis is their intellectual understanding of the strategy and long-term roadmap for that company. And so companies that want to move down this path of community-driven businesses need to consider both of those, because if you don't, you end up with problems. So, for example, you may have participants that are super passionate about the company, but they don't understand the long-term strategy or roadmap. They become what you might call loose cannons, right? They're out there excited, but not necessarily aligned. The other is that they may have a deep understanding of the strategy and the roadmap for the company, but they're really not passionate. And in that instance, you have an instance where people are kind of detached, right? So really the goal of a community-driven business is try to figure out how do you combine these two elements so you both harness the passion of the community and the intellectual understanding of the strategy. And so that requires lots of communication and actually a deep investment in a community team that can help support and engage that. But the benefits are quite large. because then you're not just relying and thinking about your customers as users, but part of a community. And that community can create stickiness. It can help you manage through volatility and makes your overall business more resilient. And I think that's where many companies are looking. And these new community-driven strategies, I think, offer some really interesting alternatives than just thinking, oh, we're going to start throwing on ads to save our stock price, which won't, because we know that ads are actually a negative. They create negative network effects and actually turn off users, and that's not exactly what you want to do. So I think this future path of community-driven businesses is a super interesting space and an area that's getting a lot of attention in the platform strategy area.